everyone. Welcome to the FutureDDS Dental School Experience Series, where we help you decide which dental school is right for you. Now, every school is unique and will provide you with a different experience, and we thought who better to explain it than a student who actually goes to the school. Our goal in this series is to give you a firsthand perspective of every dental program in America and ultimately help you make the right decision. Today, we'll be showcasing Stephanie Perko, who is a D3 at University of Minnesota School of Dentistry. How are you doing today, Stephanie?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're extremely busy and I have a lot going on.
No, absolutely. I'm sure you're busy too. So we're
Yeah,
all busy in dental school.
everybody's busy. But
Yeah.
anyway, if you can, Stephanie, please tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, where you went to undergrad, and what got you interested in dentistry.
So I am originally from Wisconsin. So it's right next to Minnesota, if you're not really good at geography, like I am. So I'm originally from Wisconsin, about like an hour away from Chicago, so more southern Wisconsin. And I went to this super tiny undergrad college called Wisconsin Lutheran College. And they didn't really have a pre-dental program. It was because it's so small, but I knew going into college that I wanted to study science and I wanted to be in healthcare someday. But I just didn't know exactly where in healthcare, or kind of I needed to find my path. And I'd always kind of thought about dentistry. I grew up playing the piano. So I played the piano since I was 9, and just the kind of the manual dexterity side of dentistry interested me. So then I started um, volunteering in an emergency dental clinic in the in the inner city of Milwaukee. So we saw a lot of emergency cases, a lot of extractions, people in pain, people that don't have insurance. And that was really eye-opening, and I was super drawn to it. And then I started shadowing my own dentists who've actually known me since I was probably in my mom's belly. So they've seen me grow up, and now they're seeing me go to dental school, and it's really awesome. And it kind of reminds you that you form these really awesome family-like relationships in dentistry when you keep seeing your patients over time. So I really liked that. Um, but yeah, that's what got me into dentistry, and I just started volunteering and shadowing. And the more and more I did, I found out that this is what I wanted to do, and this is where I was meant to go.
Okay. And so, did you go straight from undergrad to dental school?
I did. So I graduated in 2016 with a bachelor's in biology. And then I went straight into undergrad. But I still have plenty of classmates who took gap years, plenty of people who didn't um, study a science major. Like there's people in my class that were political science majors, or they were psychology. We even have like a fashion design
Mhm.
um, major designer in our class, which is really cool and is really unique, because that's what makes our class so different and everyone coming together. Um, but yeah, so I went straight in, but I almost sometimes wish I would have taken a gap year, just to kind of, get some more experience. It worked out because I'm in dental school,
Right,
but
right.
I think some people get discouraged, if they have to take a gap year. I think it's a really good idea, especially if you still are trying to make a decision, like, do I want to go to dental school? Do I not? And I think it's a good option either way. So
Right. Whatever path, there's no correct path to go, but as long
no,
as you get to the end goal, right?
yeah,
That's all
yes,
that matters. That's all that
yeah.
matters. And so you kind of mentioned your class briefly. How big is the class size at your school?
Yep. So we have 110. So they actually increased it. It used to be 80 students.
Hmm.
And then I think my class is the second or third class that'll be graduating with 110.
Okay.
So they've had to increase the preclinical space, which is really neat because they've added some new benches and stuff. But yeah, I think it's a really good size.
Hmm.
You get to form nice friendships with everyone, and you don't feel lost in the crowd, which I really like. You get enough like hands-on help and attention from faculty and professors. So
Okay. Okay, and so a lot of dental schools are kind of connected to med schools. Is it the
Mhm.
same case for you?
Yeah. So what's really cool about the University of Minnesota, where our dental school is located, it's in this building. It's called Moose Tower,
Okay.
and it's right. I know people probably think like a cow or something. It's called Moose Tower. It's named after Malcolm Moose, who was an administrator or dean there, and it's in the center of campus, which is really cool. So you're around a ton of students, but it's also in the same building with the medical school, the pharmacy school, the nursing school, public health. There's just so many medical professions, and it's attached to um, the Mayo Memorial Hospital, I believe. So the hospital associated with the university is attached to that. So there's tons of medical professionals in and out, which is really cool because you're
Right.
always surrounded by that.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay. And so what about the city? What is the city like? I know it's
Hmm.
cold. I know it's freezing up there, but
Yeah.
for people who haven't been to Minnesota and the city in which your dental school is, can you kind of explain the city environment?
Yeah. So the school is in Minneapolis.
Mhm.
And if you're familiar with the Minneapolis area, there's also a city right next to it called St. Paul. So they call them the Twin Cities because they're literally like half a mile away from each other. Um, but there's a ton to do in the city. I love it. Um, they always have a ton of stuff going on in the summer. There's a ton of free zoos, a ton of free art museums, and all this stuff. So there's always lots to do with the time that you have
Right.
outside of school. Um, but I love it. And there's tons of good places to eat too. So if you're a big foodie, you should
Mhm.
come to Minneapolis. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything really bad to say about it.
No, you shouldn't. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
you really shouldn't. It's always great when people, only speak positive about where they live and where they go to school. So that's
Yeah.
amazing regardless. And so while on that topic, your amazing school, can you kind of tell us what was the deciding factor for you when you were, laying out all your options? What made you say, you know what, this is why I need to go to Minnesota?
Yeah. So I think it's important when you're applying and interviewing, especially, that you kind of, it's so cliche, but as much as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. And something that I really was looking for is that I wanted to stay close to home. So I wanted to stay, I'm from the Midwest, so I wanted to stay in the Midwest area. So I think when you're choosing a dental school, that's something really important to consider, where you kind of want to be and where you want to live. Um, and another thing I really liked about the school itself was that it was integrated with all of the other professions, and it was in the heart of the campus, and it wasn't so much like a separate building. Some schools I interviewed at, the dental school was kind of set off, which is totally fine. I just thought it was really neat having the campus all together and having the school right there. Um, but the fact that, I mean, it's been around a long time. Their kind of their motto is driven to discover.
Mhm.
And what's really nice is they have a very big emphasis on research, but then they also have a big emphasis and place in public health
Mhm.
and clinical and outreach. So it's not completely one or the other.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked. They had a ton of outreach sites. I think they have currently 12 or 13 throughout Minnesota, um, both in rural communities and in the city, which is really interesting. So I really enjoyed that. And then they also have a craniofacial clinic, craniofacial and cleft clinic,
Okay. That's unique.
which is what?
I said that's very unique.
Yeah, because I guess they said it before in one of our classes. I think it's one of the only ones associated with the university. There's not a lot of them, which is really neat. And then we also have a special separate TMD clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So when we see patients they're like, oh, my jaw hurts, or I'm having like trouble with this, we have an actual like residency program for TMD. And so it's really cool. It's really interesting. And we get lectures from their residents. But those are like the big things offhand that I can think of. So
Minnesota seems like it has a lot to offer.
Yeah, no, and I mean every school has their own like
Of
things to
course.
offer too, and I probably could think of way more, but those are like the top things like off my head that I really liked and that really interest me. So
Okay, and so I'm sure that you came to the interview, right? You went to the
yep.
interview. I'm sure they explained all of these things to you.
Mhm.
A lot of our viewers are always very interested in how was your interview day.
Yep.
Like you kind of just break that down, how the whole interview day went.
Yeah. So it was actually a pretty small interview group.
Uh-huh.
It was only about like four of us. So it wasn't a whole group. I mean they had multiple sessions, but so it was about like four of us and they did the kind of like introduction for the day and two of us went on a group tour and then two of us were interviewed separately.
Mhm.
And it's I think for the most part it's like a 2-on-1, so two interviewers with you. And for my interview at least it was closed file, so they didn't know anything about me,
Mhm.
just that I was applying
Right.
and I was here sitting in front of them.
Right. Right.
But what I thought was really unique about their interview process was it was very situational based. So a lot of it was tell me a time when blank
Mhm.
happened and how did you react? Um, because they really want to know who you are, how you think, how you react to certain situations, because it tells a lot about who you are as a person.
Definitely.
Um, which was really cool because they weren't so much, looking at my grades. I mean, that's important too, but they weren't so much looking at who I am on paper, but looking at who I am sitting in front of them and who I am as a person, um, which I really enjoyed. And honestly, it felt just like a conversation, like a friendly conversation, and made it less intimidating because you're not just sitting there getting drilled with questions. But I really liked it. I had a positive experience. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you went through the interview, and of course you got in. Um,
Yeah.
how were those first couple of weeks? Like, did they give you an orientation week or anything like that, or were they just like, "Hey, y'all are here. It's time to
Mhm.
start doing it." So,
Just throw you in.
yeah,
No.
just throw you into the
Um,
body.
we had, I think, a few days of like an orientation.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a summer break for all the like D2s, D3s, D4s,
Mhm.
and the D1s, the first years come back like a week early, so like the very end of August, and there's like a 3-day orientation and kind of thing, and you sit down and they talk to you about all this stuff, like just the ins and outs and like financial aid, all that kind of all the little logistics.
Mhm.
Um, and then you get like your photos and just like all the very like orientation stuff. And then I remember specifically like the second day we did like a team building like icebreaker thing,
Mhm.
which was really cool. It was like a giant like obstacle course thing. I don't know, it was really fun.
Right.
So we did that, and then we started school on that Monday. Um, and it definitely, I think, for anyone going into dental school, there definitely is some level of adjustment. Um,
Always.
like I don't think there's anyone that just comes in, they're like, oh yeah, this is a piece of
Right.
cake. And that's perfectly normal.
Mhm.
And um, what's what's challenging about dental school is that you are taking a lot of credits. I mean, in undergrad, maybe I took like 17 or 18 at the most, but then you're kind of getting into the 20s in dental school, so that can be kind of intimidating. Um, and I think the first few weeks I kind of felt like I don't know what I'm doing, and you're just kind of getting your feet wet and trying to figure out how things go. And all the faculty understands that. I mean, there'll be some that will probably scare you, but
Always. Always.
everyone goes through that. And what's really nice is knowing that your classmates are going through the same thing and you can rely on them as much as they can rely on you. You have like a shoulder to lean on. Um, and it can be stressful, but I feel like once the first few months get going, you kind of get in the hang of things, and you find your routine and you find what works for you, and things just, you're able to get through it.
And we all do. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
we're all, we all progress through it. So it's easier, right?
yeah. No, it does. It does get easier because I'm sitting here as a third year and I don't have exams every single week, and I'm just in clinic and I'm like doing what I came here for, and it finally like this is the moment that you wanted to be in dental school for, and it's
It all
here.
makes
So
sense.
yeah.
I cannot wait till I get to that point.
Yeah.
So is it the same as our school, whereas like our second year is the hardest year? Is it the same there?
Yeah, I think that's like notorious for a
Yeah.
lot of schools, and I'm glad that it's not just our school. I'm
Right,
glad it's
right.
more people. Um, Minnesota is currently in transition with their curriculum,
Mhm.
and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but what I do know about it is it's for the benefit of for the students that are incoming, because they're going to get into clinic sooner.
Okay.
As a D2, I got into clinic about the end of my D2 year. And it was just kind of doing prophies, which is good, like confidence builder, and you're getting used to clinic and everything. Um, but now I think they're transitioning their curriculum so that more of D1 year, early D2 year is all didactic,
Mhm.
and then you're getting into clinic like the very beginning of your D2 year, which
Okay.
is really cool. And I know a lot of other schools are doing that too. They
I
are
have,
trying to get students into clinic sooner as well.
yeah, I
But
have heard that.
that's one thing I didn't have when I started, and
Yeah.
I think it's a really great idea. It's a really great experience. So if you have a chance to get into clinic sooner and get more experience under your belt before you graduate, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Okay. Okay. Great.
but
Great.
D2 year is tough.
For everybody, yeah.
But
For
you
everybody.
get through it, and once you take your boards, it's like a weight off your shoulders, and
Yeah. And see, we took our boards this summer. So last summer. So
oh, okay.
yeah. So we're done with boards.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
we knocked
that's
them out
nice.
early. We knocked them out early, but
Yeah,
this is the time when we're doing a whole bunch of projects. We
yeah,
were introduced to fixed, endo,
yeah.
removable,
Oh,
all of that within the year. And so even now,
yeah,
we just have a crazy 10 exam block coming up
yeah.
like at the end of the month. So
Oh,
it's a
geez.
lot. But I mean, hey, that second year, everybody has to go through it.
Yeah.
So if you can go back and remember your first year, could you
Okay.
kind of give us like a timeline of what your day would look like? So like, okay,
Yeah.
your first class starts at 8, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm. Yeah. So it pretty much is like that. We had like all of our. It's very didactic, right? Because you're
Mhm.
taking your classes you need to pass boards.
Right.
Um, so we probably start at like 8 or 9, depending on the class. And there's lecture halls in the Moose Tower. So we're in there. And basically from 8 or 9 until like noon, you have classes, and then we have lunch, and then they have a more hands-on practical
Mhm.
like lab class, so like operative or fixed or all that kind of stuff, where you need a lab and you need to be in pre-clinic. So that was in the afternoon. So then we had finished the day off with a class and being in lab and doing more hands-on practical things. So yeah, that was
Pretty much
pretty
the
much
day.
a day for every day. And sometimes we didn't have, there were certain days we had off,
Mhm.
where we could like go up into clinic and assist, and kind of familiarize ourselves with what's going on up there and where everything is, which was really cool because you're a D1 and you're like, ooh, I want to see where everything is. So
Excited about the whole situation.
yeah, it is. It's exciting. So yeah, but other than that, it's a lot of classwork and a lot of lab work and spending out time outside of lab. Um, I don't think I've spent so much time like outside of school, like doing school. But that's like the name of the game, and you
Right.
just
No,
because
it
you need to
is.
practice and you
You
need
have
to
to. You
yeah,
have to.
you just kind of get you just it's part of your schedule and you figure that out. But it can be fun and it can get busy, but it gets over soon. So
Right. And so, okay, so say somebody's listening to this interview, right?
yeah,
and they are super excited. They're just like, Stephanie told me Minnesota's great.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. Blah. What would you say, or what would you tell that viewer when it comes to the application? Like, what's something that
Hmm.
Minnesota really looks at when they're looking at certain applicants, whether it be community service, whether it be like research? What's like one of those main things for you to make sure you have on your application?
Yeah. I think one of the big things for for Minnesota, but I think in general too, is shadowing and volunteering. Like having a lot of schools require a certain amount of hours anyway. Um, but Minnesota is very big on that. I did some research in undergrad. I didn't do any through dental school, but I definitely had classmates that, they did do research in undergrad, they did it in dental school, and they have continued it through our program. But I don't think that is necessarily like, oh, we like research at the Minnesota and you need to have it.
Right. It's not make or break.
Yeah, it's not a make or break. I think it's something that, can help and, broaden your horizons and make you a more well-rounded individual, or applicant, I should say. But definitely, I would say volunteering, shadowing is a big thing. And I think what it comes down to is um, they're really looking at your personal statement, and they're looking at what your story is, and who you are as a person, and what led you to this path. I don't think they want to just hear, oh, I've wanted to be a dentist since I was, they really want to see like who you are, what has brought you here. And I really value that about the the administration and the application committee. um, so I think that's something, making sure that you have a really good personal statement, have enough shadowing. Um, and I just think one thing in general for your application is just to be you,
Mhm.
and be true to yourself. And when you get to the interview, be open and honest and just show them who you really are, and don't try to be someone that you think they want to see or anything like that.
Right.
But
I
I
completely
know
agree.
it's like general, but
No, I mean, it's the truth though, because I feel like
yeah.
people can feel when somebody's not being genuine,
Mhm.
and that will literally destroy your entire interview. So
Yeah.
it definitely does make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that, or everybody's also kind of nervous about dental school being taxing, just kind of like on your mental, right?
Yep.
A big topic now is mental health. So I
Hmm.
wanted to ask you, how do you kind of balance your sanity? How do you balance your work-life balance while going through dental school?
Yeah. It's definitely tough at times. Um, I'm a big proponent, or a big advocate, I should say, of mental health.
Mhm.
Um, because I think, school is important and school comes first a lot, but you need to take care of yourself first in order to do the best that you can to succeed and care for your patients someday. Um, and I feel like when I was a first year, I kind of was just so focused on school, and I was like, no, I have to do this and I have to do this, and I don't have time to do anything for myself. And looking back on it, you need to take care of yourself,
Right.
and your health and your mental health. It's hard, obviously, to balance things. I totally understand that. I can be a procrastinator sometimes,
Okay.
and um, organizing. I try to stay organized, but it doesn't always happen. So I get that it's hard. Um, but finding something or sticking to something that you enjoy and that makes you happy outside of school, I would say try to put that as a priority. Like, I love exercising and running, so I made sure that I always try to set aside time to do that. It's a great outlet for stress, um, and it's just great to get your mind off of other things that other things than dental school.
Right.
So
And so does Minnesota have any like programs within the school to kind of like promote a good balance of work life or
mhm. Yeah, no, I think there are a ton of resources.
Hmm.
Um, because like I was mentioning before that there's so many different programs, and it's right in the middle of campus itself.
Hmm.
There is like a counseling and mental health department it's called a part of our like health center.
Okay.
And it's literally like next door. It's just like a 5-minute walk, and there's always someone to talk to. There's always someone to um, hear you out if you have frustrations or if you're going through any difficult time. There's always someone there for you. Um, you just have to know that they're there and then seek them out if you need that. But Minnesota does have some really good resources for that between counseling, um, the administration and student affairs. People are super nice. I've talked to them many times about things. So I've always felt like there's support,
Right.
basically.
And that's a great feeling. Because
Yeah,
when you don't have that,
yeah,
that's when things start to get tricky, you know?
yeah, yeah. Because you just have to know you're never alone. And
Right.
that's how I've never felt that I've been alone. And someone's always there to hear me out when I have something to say. So,
That's pivotal to your success, honestly.
yes, yes.
Definitely. But okay. So now let's talk about clinic. I know we already touched on it.
Yep.
So you said that even though it's about to change, uh,
Hmm.
typically right now, your school, you start clinic third year.
Yes.
Okay. And you said you do or you don't do assist before then?
You do assist before
Okay.
then. Yeah.
Okay.
So you've been in clinic and just assisting, but you actually don't, like it was changing, so it's a little hard to
Mhm.
explain, but we would do prophies and cleanings and exams on patients the end of our D2 year. And then once we got to D3 year, after we had like a week break off and we were like officially D3s, that first day back is in clinic, and you can do operative, you can do cross work, kind of whatever the patient needs, because there's patients put in your schedule and
Right,
you
right.
just kind of go from there. But I've had a really positive clinical experience. I think overall it can be kind of intimidating and
Yeah.
tough to transition, um, from pre-clinic and working on a mannequin to all of a sudden having patients. Um, so I don't want anyone, I don't know, don't get discouraged if you feel like things don't click right away, because you're learning and that's why you're here. And it can be stressful, but it's going to make you stronger um, as a dentist someday.
Yeah.
So,
Like you're
but
literally talking to me.
yeah,
'Cause we're
I
about
know.
to start. We're about to start like in 3 months, and
Yeah.
granted, I've done like one prophy, and we
Okay.
do assist. But I think everything changes once it's actually your patient.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm excited, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can become kind of anxious about that.
Yeah.
But okay, but great, great. So major advantages. Can you tell me like some major advantages about going to your school,
Major advantages.
or something that
Yeah.
you feel like has made your
Hmm.
experience just super super unique?
Yeah. Well, I kind of listed earlier the things that
Yeah,
we
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of had, like
All the different
the
things.
cleft and craniofacial thing, but something that's also kind of made my clinical experience unique is we tend to see a lot of medically complex patients,
Okay.
um, and some faculty kind of compare the patients we see to some patients you may see in like a general practice residency,
Mhm.
um, which can be challenging, because I've definitely been there and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna like tackle this? But it pushes you, and it has allowed me to grow as a student and a future dentist in more ways than I've ever anticipated. Um, so that's something I really, really enjoy, um, being in clinic.
Mhm.
And something else that's unique as well is Minnesota. I don't know how many other schools have this. I think Colorado does, but um, we have a dental therapy program,
Okay. Okay.
and it's really, I don't want to try to explain it and get it wrong,
Right.
because they're really, really great students and future healthcare practitioners. So I don't want to get it mixed up, but
Yeah, I
basically,
understand.
they created this program, dental therapy, as kind of a way to expand access to
Yeah.
care in rural areas and areas in cities, where you may have a ton of patients, but you only have one dentist. So I think the dental therapists are hygiene certified as well.
Okay.
So they can do um, certain fillings, they can anesthetize, they can do cleanings, they can do a lot of things. And I don't know the whole scope, but it's really unique because we actually work with them. And part of like our requirement for graduation is doing like a clinical experience with them, is working on one patient with them.
Hmm.
So it's really cool because I feel like that's not in a lot of other places yet.
Right. No, it's definitely not. And I think that anybody who's kind of like interested in the industry, I
Yeah,
think dental therapist is like a huge topic right now.
it
Um,
is. Yeah,
it's
I
a
know.
big topic. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
a whole other thing to
whole other thing.
dive into. But
Right. But no, if anybody is interested, then we both highly recommend you doing your own research and just kind of
yeah,
learn about what a dental therapist is able to do and what it means
mhm,
for dentistry in the future. Definitely.
yeah, I think there's really good advantages to it, especially when you have a lot of patients and say you're the only dentist and you kind of have that extra thing to delegate certain tasks to, and um, accomplish certain things and get patients the care that they need. So I think that's really important, especially when we're dealing with dentistry, like this big topic in dentistry as a whole, where we're dealing with lack of access
Yeah.
to care. Um, so it's just something unique that I think is really interesting, and we get to work alongside them every day in clinic, and even on our outreach too, we get to work with them. So
That's
yeah,
that's very
yeah,
unique.
yeah,
Very unique. Okay, but I want to ask you one last question.
yeah.
Um, what would be your last, or not your last piece of advice, but one piece of advice that you would give somebody who maybe not necessarily is interested in coming to Minnesota, but just wants to apply to dental school in general?
Yeah, I need to think.
Okay,
I
take your time. Take your time.
think there's a lot.
There is. There
It's
is.
kind of, going through the whole thing and then looking back on it. I think applying in general, I think one of the biggest things for me was applying early.
Yeah.
Um, I talked to several admissions committees, and it's different between every school, but I just felt, the sooner you get your application in, the sooner everything's kind of finalized, um, sort of the better chances you have at, getting an interview sooner and kind of getting in that school that you want. So I think that's a really big key, because I feel like some people I've talked to that, like, oh, well, I submitted my application like in October, and we're like, oh, well, they decide in December, which, I mean, it happens. Like, people
Right.
get after, like, they get interviews in the spring and stuff. But I think that's just one of my big things. And it's nice to just get it done out of the way, and you don't have to stress out about it later. Um, Second biggest thing, I mentioned it before, is just be genuine and be honest, and be true to who you are, and show them who you are as a person and why you've come to dentistry and the impact that you're going to make as a dentist. Um, yeah, that's like my biggest key advice, is just really staying true to yourself. And I actually, in my interview for Minnesota, they asked me a question about like a time that something, like, you had a fight with someone, or like had an argument with someone, disagreement, and like how did it work out. And I remember telling them a story, and I was open and honest with them. I said, this is what happened, like I owned up to this mistake or whatever, and they appreciated that honesty, and it just shows who you are as a person. So being honest and open, even if it is not perfect, you're human, and so yeah.
Let's,
But those are my biggest things, I would say. But I know I'll probably think of things as soon as I'm done.
well, okay. Well, how about this? What if you would like, is there any way that people who want to listen or not even listen but want to get some more information from you, is there any way they can contact you?
Yeah, definitely. You can always message me on my Instagram handle. It's at Stephanie Spurk _Spurks. Which I gave it to you guys, so I think maybe you'll
Yeah,
write it down.
we can put it we can put it
Okay.
in the description box below.
Okay. So I have that. And I also have my email too. I don't want to just give out my email, but if people message me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and then they want to communicate via email, I'm open to that. So
Okay.
I love
Okay.
helping people, and everyone that is interested in dentistry and just needs some help getting there, I'm more than willing to talk and give some advice. So
Obviously, Stephanie is
yeah.
here to help. So please
Yes.
reach out with any questions that you all have,
Yeah.
because she definitely wants to help you all out. But thank you so much, Stephanie, on behalf of FutureDDS and all of our subscribers, all of our viewers. We want to say thank you again because we know you are busy. It has been a long day for you. I know
No, you guys are busy
all
too.
day. No, we really do appreciate you.
Yeah.
And everything that you've helped us accomplish today. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's super fun, and I love answering questions. So, yep.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
If you all haven't already, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button below. Also hit the subscribe and notification bell so that you know whenever we post new content. But until next time, see y'all later.